So how many people here are parents of a student that may have ADD or a learning disability? Okay. How many people teach students with learning disabilities or ADD or another kind of learning challenge? Okay. Administrators? Anybody wearing all of those hats? I bet we have some. They don't want to admit it. Well, I can tell you that I wear all of those hats. So, okay. Jane, is it okay if I walk around a little bit? I tend to like to connect with people. So will you be able to hear it in the microphone if I walk around? Or can I just talk really loudly?
Or you could use this microphone.
Oh, gosh. I always say that when I go to, and by the way, you'll notice I have my sneakers on. 5:30 this morning was a long time ago, and I raced in from the car without my regular shoes, but I'm actually kind of glad this is more comfortable. Okay. All right, so let's go to the first slide. That's the first. So we have to manually go. Okay, 1 second. Always be prepared with a backup plan. Okay, the first few slides I'm going to go through pretty quickly. They're in your handouts. You can write things down. A lot of it is generally out there, but one of the first things that I'd like to start off with is this thing working? What exactly is assistive technology? And one of the things that is now happening is that the lines are blurring quite a bit between assistive technology and sort of instructional technology. In essence, there is a very clear difference though. Assistive technology, and we'll get to the regular definition in a minute, but it isn't really designed necessarily to give guided practice or independent practice or to teach. What it is designed to do is to remove barriers to learning. It enables students who may have difficulties with reading or writing or math to access the same curriculum as their non-disabled peers. It might enable them to perform with the same stamina as a non-disabled peer. There are lots of ways that assistive technology helps a student that makes it different from, I'm going to try and see if it goes forward. All right, so we're going to walk back and forth. That makes it different. One of the most important things to remember, though, is that when students need assistive technology, it's because there is something getting in the way that prevents them from being able to learn, access curricular materials, access instruction, any of these things without assistive technology. Now, the important thing to remember is that it's not a case of either assistive technology or remedial, even though I hate that word, remedial instruction. Really, it's both. We have parallel instruction going on because at the same time that perhaps you're working on perceptual skills down here, which might be decoding, it might be spelling, handwriting, a number of those things, the student might be able to perform at a much higher level up here, so here's our parallels, for reading comprehension, for composing, some of those kinds of things, if only they could bypass the areas of difficulty. And that's where assistive technology comes in. Because we want to keep working on those areas that need work, but we also want to work on enabling them to receive this instruction at the higher level. So let's just make a picture in our heads. Johnny is in 2nd grade. He can't decode anything, but his teachers are working on it. But he has pretty darn good listening comprehension. Now, if we fast forward without assistive technology about, let's say, 5 years. Now we have Johnny still trying to learn to decode, and now his listening comprehension of text material isn't up here anymore. It's more like down here. So we have a trajectory that kind of looks like this. So this is the decoding, kind of going along like this. This should be our listening comprehension started up here, and it's going to go like this. But what happens, you'll be able to tell in a minute that I'm also, that reading specialist hat on too. But what happens is, if this student does not have access to instruction with increasingly more difficult and more complex text language, now we've got a second problem. Because the sentences are getting longer, there's more and more vocabulary, it's multisyllabic, and sometimes if you can't decode it, it's really hard to say it and therefore acquire it. So vocabulary becomes a problem, comprehension of text language becomes a problem. All of these things work together so that our trajectory that started up here and should be going like this, kind of goes like this. Whereas the decoding may be going like this. But by the time the decoding catches up, if it ever completely catches up in a fluent way, then you've got this flat line, or maybe a slight growth. And then where is Johnny in 5 years? Instead of being able to read and comprehend and write at a 7th grade level, guess where he's at? Shout it out. Fourth, fifth. Anybody else want to make a guess?
Second. Still second.
Maybe still second, maybe third if somebody reads to him a lot. But it's hard to hang on to things when you're trying to hear it. I can attest to that. If you can't also see it. A lot of times we have these students that could acquire this multisyllabic vocabulary word if they could say it right. And they could say it right if they could read it correctly. But because they can't read it correctly, they can't say it correctly, they can't decode it correctly, where does that word go? Not in here. Okay? So that's sort of the convoluted, and then we'll go through things a little more quickly. These are some of the legal definitions of what is assistive technology that I'm going to buzz through. It's in your handout. You can find them online. It's 300.5 for IDEA. ADA, you have to dig a little bit further, but look for the Assistive Tech Act of 2004. Did you have a question? Oh, sorry. Okay. Hey, people do that to me too, sorry. Okay, so I'm going to go through these next couple quickly. Here is some more detail about AT and IDEA and ADA. So, the red isn't really showing up as well as it might, but we have the definition, we have the places where assistive technology can come into play in the IEP. One is under related services, one could be right under direct services. I personally, when I write goals for our students or for students that we see in schools, I like to write 2 sets of goals. In keeping, again, remember, parallel instruction. I want to measure their growth in reading comprehension with and without assistive technology. I want to measure their growth in, say, math with and without. Writing's a little more complicated depending upon whether it's graphomotor or what the issue is. In the beginning stages, I might not measure it without assistive tech. Okay, so the other thing is that every time that the IEP team meets, they need to consider whether the student needs assistive technology. It used to be to consider it in a little bit, a little easier to neglect way. And it's really hard for teens, as someone who was in public education for many, many years, when you're trying to get through that IEP team meeting, as an administrator, as a teacher, to get through everything and to remember to do this, it's hard. As a parent, it's difficult to remember to ask about this. This is another talk altogether that maybe you'll come to one of those, but it also, there are several places within the IEP where it talks about whether or not assistive technology is needed and what that technology might be. Okay, so we talked a little bit about this. So when you do an assistive technology evaluation, anytime that you consider providing it to a student, you want to always consider it on a range from low tech to mid tech to high tech. When a student comes to us for an assistive tech evaluation, I read all the files. I tell people, don't ever give me original files because I highlight them, I put tabs on them, I write on them. They would never want them back, but they mean a lot to me. Because what I need to do is to start to make a plan before the student comes as to what my hypothesis is about what kind of technology might be beneficial to this student. Then when they come, we do, and that's another talk too, but we do a variety of trials, and we're going to try various things to see what is effective and what's not, and gather very concrete data along the way. So, what is high technology, by the way, today? Anybody want to venture a hypothesis on that one?
Voice to text.
What's that? Yeah, high tech assistive tech.
Voice to text.
Voice to text is actually, by the way, sort of a bugaboo of mine because I've been in speech recognition since '93, but it's not voice, believe it or not. I know everybody says that. Some of the top people in the field do too. So voice recognition means it recognizes my voice imprint, so to speak, just to put it like a fingerprint. Speech recognition means that it recognizes someone's speech and is able to go through the statistical analysis that I won't get into and transform that into letters or words. Okay, so yes, sorry, but I always like to take advantage if somebody says that to point out the differences. So yes, so you're saying speech recognition, high tech. Yes, no?
Me?
Yeah.
I threw it out there, yeah.
Good, okay. Anybody else? Give me some examples of high technology, please.
iPad.
iPad, good.
Computers.
Computers. I should have the teenagers here. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Cell phones?
Cell phones, okay. I know, it's late at night, isn't it?
Surprised me.
Okay, we'll come back to you. Put your thinking hat on. Okay, anybody else? More high tech.
Some of these pens that
Okay,
read to you.
okay, some of the pens that read to you. I'm sorry, back there?
I say the oncoming of artificial intelligence.
The oncoming artificial intelligence. Whoa, that's really high tech. Okay,
Predictive software.
predictive software. Okay, let's talk about low tech. This is assistive tech too, by the way. Can you give me an example of what you think? And don't worry, just throw it out because we're going to talk about it. Calculators.
Keyboard. That's what I was
Ah,
thinking.
she took yours. Yes.
Keyboard.
Keyboard.
Highlighter.
Highlighter.
Actually, those math grids.
Math grids.
Color coded.
Color coding.
Graphic word management.
Like a hand grip?
Like a hand grip, yeah. See, I told you I was coming back to you. Okay.
Graphic
How-
organizer.
Graphic organizer? Paper, digital? What kind? Any kind.
Okay.
Okay, good. Okay. Do you notice how many more low-tech we came out with? That's good, because that's usually what we know. All right, now we're going to go up the hill a little bit. So we are high-tech, we're low-tech. How about mid-tech?
Like, I don't know what the name of it, like a microphone.
Oh, like the FM system?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, good. He's getting warmed up now. Anybody else?
Audiobooks.
Audiobooks, okay. So let me ask you a question. I only had a couple of the mid-tech, right? What's the difference?
Like readily
Cost.
available commercially?
Readily available,
Commercially?
Commercial,
Cost,
cost,
availability,
availability,
power.
power, What's that?
Difficulty?
Difficulty, what do you mean by that?
Well, low-tech is like to use. High-tech, you have to teach somebody, train somebody.
Ah, okay. That's pretty good. What's that?
What information that they get from it.
The information they get from it? Oh, that's good too. I gotta write this down. Jean, are you writing this down for me? Okay, those are all really good, important things. The lines really are blurring though. Picture for a minute, anybody here have teenagers and 20-somethings, 30-somethings, or younger? Okay, so what do they carry with them everywhere? Phones. So, is that high-tech or low-tech? Okay. Depends, high-tech, okay.
Depends on what kind of phone.
Okay, depends on what
How
kind
they
of
know how
phone.
to use it. You know what I mean? Like you can have like apps that can provide tremendous amount of information, but if they don't know how to use it, if they don't have those on their phone, they don't know how to access the information.
Okay, all right. It's quiet over in this corner. Anybody else want to offer any thoughts before we jump on? Okay, so it is trickier now than it's ever been. And part of the reason is all those things that you all just mentioned. So technically speaking, in the purest sense of the word, low tech are, it's sort of like cost, but that's not really supposed to be the definition. It is the stuff that doesn't require power, a lot of technology, a lot of training, although, remind me to come back to that training thing later, please. So, like a highlighter pen, like, oh, they're in my bag, but you know, I love them. I take them everywhere. You know those little sticky things that are transparent, but they're colored? How many use them all the time? Oh, come on, if you're a teacher, you have them all the time. How about sticky notes? Okay? Doesn't sound like low tech, but it can be. What about colored overlays? Anybody ever use those? Those are low tech, even though they're not that easy to get a hold of. Slant boards, low tech. Okay? Pencil grips, I think you were the one that said that, low tech. Any of those kinds of things, whether or not they're readily available, they're not complicated, and they are, don't require to be plugged in, those kinds of things. That's sort of my definition of low tech. You're going to find different people define it in different ways, especially if you talk to the teenagers. All right, mid-tech. I don't even like that term because I don't really know what it is anymore, but it could be like those reading, scanning pens. It could be a calculator, especially some of the ones that are talking calculators. Could be a digital recorder. So you see we're kind of going up the hill a little bit. Anybody have another example that falls in that group?
The book that you listen to and it reads to you or something?
The book that you listen to and it reads to you.
Something like, they plug it in and they can hear stories.
Like an audiobook kind of thing? Okay, it could be. We're getting up the slope a little bit, but it really could be mid-tech. Okay. So part of it is going to depend upon your definition, but I think the simplest demarcation is between low-tech and high-tech. So for me, nothing's really high-tech when it comes to me, because as my husband says, ooh, you're just in this field because you want to buy all the good toys. Says a guy, right? Okay, so I happen to need to use speech recognition for all of my reports. So to me, it doesn't feel like high-tech, but in reality, it is high-tech. Why? Well, this part's not so complicated anymore, but it takes a certain type of hardware to run it. It takes a certain amount of training expertise to train somebody in its use, and you usually need a very specific kind of microphone. So that's definitely high-tech. Talking calculators, depending on how complicated they are, could be high-tech. Some of your portable electronic devices could be high-tech. It's really going to depend. But, and so you see why the demarcation between low-tech, pure low-tech, and pure high-tech is much easier. Mid-tech sort of becomes based on your own definition. Okay, so I'm going to fly through this because if you're here, you probably know this anyway. So why would we use assistive technology for a student? Well, let's say a student has difficulties in the area of reading. They might have decoding problems. They might have difficulty, believe it or not, this could be another one, turning the page. Does anybody know anybody like that? And so they might need a page turner, or they might, these days, use something like an iPad that you can set it to automatically turn the pages. It could be difficulties with vocabulary, comprehension, working memory, language, lots of different things could require a student to need assistive technology. The really important question really lies on the cusp, and it's really more of a legal question that I'm not going to get into because I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an advocate, I'm just a little old tech person. But if that student cannot access the instruction, the instructional materials, sometimes even the social environment in the school, the physical environment, if the student cannot access any of those things in the same way as their non-disabled peers, they may well need assistive technology. So, again, we'll throw Johnny on the table. Poor Johnny, I throw him around a lot. So, Johnny, he's really smart. He can talk up a storm. We're going to put him in first grade this time, okay? It's the end of first grade. Johnny hasn't gone to second grade yet, but we have the same problem. He can't decode any of the words. If you read the story to him, he's got it. He knows probably, let's make this up, 10 sight words, but he hasn't been able to get any more of them. So he can read some limited things. He's really good at guessing based on those 10 words, pictures, a lot of the things, the repetitive sentences, predictive kind of sentences that you might see in first grade. Everybody thinks he's doing fine because he's got you all snowed. He can memorize any book. He can talk like crazy about anything in science or anything. But what he can't do is he can't crack that code. And he cannot read any of those words. But he doesn't want you to know it, because what do these kids always assume about themselves when they can't do what their friends can do? Stupid, the big S word. One of the big things when I do reading evals that I make sure I have a talk with the kids about is, so, you learn differently. And they go, I'm not stupid. Not at all. So, here's Johnny. It's the end of first grade. Let's make it May, not June, so you have time for a PPT. So, Johnny's mother comes in and says to the teacher, you know what? Something's not right. If he knows the book, if he's heard it, if he can guess, everything's great. But if I give him a book with no pictures and with words he's never seen before, he cries and he throws the book on the floor. I don't know what's wrong. And the teacher has never seen any of this because he's clever, is our Johnny. So they do an eval, they discover, oh my gosh, Johnny can't read a single word. What shall we do? Well, remember the parallel instruction. But here's a paradigm shift that I hope is happening throughout all of our schools. When do you decide to give a student assistive technology? right away? Like as soon as he starts kindergarten?
Well, as soon as you're able to identify what the deficiencies and the needs are.
Okay. I saw another hand, I know I did.
I'd say middle school.
Middle school, okay? Yes.
I'd say, you trial it, see how it works out.
Give it a whirl, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
See how he responds.
See how he responds.
Other options.
Okay.
I'd say probably around third grade when kids stop learning to read and they start reading to learn.
Okay. All right. Yes.
I would also say as soon as possible, because before they start noticing that they're different from the others and what they're doing is different from the other kids.
Okay. There's no real wrong answer, but remember the test. So, can Johnny access these books like all the other kids? No. Is he learning the text language like all the other kids? No. Is he picking up the vocabulary? And I won't even get into how many hundreds of thousands each year students learn. Is he getting all that? So, does he have the same instructional access that all of his peers do? No. No. Okay, so this is a paradigm shift I'm talking about. It's really tough because for years, in the same way that we didn't necessarily give reading intervention until students were really, really, really failing, we didn't always give assistive technology or even do trials with or assistive technology evaluations until the student was much further along. But if you think about this, here's Johnny, right? Now, starting in the summer between first and second grade, or in second grade, all of a sudden, Johnny can read all the same books as everybody else. How do you think Johnny feels?
Better.
Great. That's not the litmus test though, but yes, he definitely feels better. For me, it's a big factor, but technically it's not. But the test is, if he doesn't have access to instructional materials, the same as his non-disabled peers, if he doesn't have access to instruction, the same as his non-disabled peers, or even if it takes tremendous stamina in some cases, and he's exhausted, within an hour, or his reading is much slower, or any of these things. I know it kind of depends on the circumstances, but we want students to have access to assistive technology as soon as they need it, as soon as they do not have equal access. I don't know if any of you have ever seen it. I didn't put it in the slideshow, but it's kicking around out there. It's that little sort of a cartoon picture, and there are 3 kiddos, and they're trying to watch a ball game, right? And so kiddo number 1, he's tall, he can see right over the fence, no problem. Kiddo number 2, you can almost see over the fence, no problem. Kiddo number 3, he's down here, the fence is up here, he's not seeing anything. So, maybe equality is, okay, guy number 1's all set. Guy number 2, we're going to give him a little stool. Guy number 3, we're going to give him a big stool. Equal, right? It's equal. Is it just? And this is not a legal definition, by the way. But is it just?
Yes.
Okay, tell me about that.
Well, it's simply the right thing to do because it levels the playing field.
Mm-hmm.
And then they can take it from there. And
Okay.
In any case, each child is going to achieve at various levels in various arenas.
Okay.
But they must, in the beginning, have an equal, level playing field.
Okay, so that makes it equal. You're absolutely right. And it makes it just, kind of.
Makes it
But what makes it really just? Anybody want to venture a guess? It would be easier if I had the picture, but I want you to try to picture it. What makes it just, truly justice? They all have, a box or something they can all see over the fence. So what happens if the bully yep, I can say it good.
They were only given the technology they needed to get over the fence. They weren't given more than they needed.
Right, or maybe this guy's got binoculars to see through the hole in the fence. Maybe he's got okay, what kind of saw is it, guys? A jigsaw? I don't know. What's the one that goes a little hole? Maybe he gets that. I don't know. But so the thing is that we give students what they need to be independently successful so that they can access instruction and instructional materials. This little guy hanging on the edge, on the big box that's going back and forth, is going to get tired after a while. So just something to think about.
So can I ask you a question?
Sure.
How is that, sorry, I'm listening to you speak, and how is that researched, like, and how does it look in the classroom? Like I'm thinking, I'm imagining a 20 kids in a class, and it's not uncommon for the teacher to say, okay, open to page 7 in your book, and Johnny's going to read paragraph 1, and Susie's going to read paragraph 2. So is Johnny then going to put his ear, is he going to put his earplugs in at this point, and someone's going to read it to him? You know what I'm saying? Like, how does that look? And then is there research based on that? Johnny then is able to stay with his peers if he has the earbuds.
Okay.
Right?
Before I answer that, somebody else has a hand up.
So as of 2004, in IDEA, we passed something called NIMAC, which is the, National Instructional Materials Access. So all materials have to be accessible in multiple modalities, so it's not like kids are being told, turn to page 7. It could be a smart board, and everyone is seeing it on, also on their laptops. More and more classrooms have, Chromebooks and bring your own technology. So it's not like when we were there.
It's true, and I was probably there way longer ago than you were, but NEASC will fault a school that doesn't have a bring your own device. Some schools have found that out to their great dismay because they've been more worried about these great, God bless you, high schoolers that can hack their network. So the NIMAC, years ago, we would all go down to the meetings in Florida, and the publishers would show up, and they'd be having an absolute fit until we started talking about market model. So, but let me return to your question a little more specifically, because what Jerry said is important, because that is where the repository is. Any book that has been published since July 2006 must be made available as digital text through the NIMAC, and these days that's really done since the OSEP grant through Bookshare. Now, what does it really look like in the classroom? So we've been pushing toward the Universal Design for Learning, UDL, model for a long time. One of the difficulties with that is money, of course, but also, well, so then does assistive technology mean that the kid gets the same technology as everybody else? No. But one of the things that happens is, and this is, beyond training, beyond an implementation plan, beyond a matrix, beyond all of this, critically important, how do you get the kid beyond using it one-on-one, fully trained, partially trained, into using it in the classroom? Well, that's another presentation, but I'm going to give you the short answer, which, by the way, I'm not known for, so Jane, keep me going. Cooperative learning. When I'm going to have a student start using the technology in the classroom, I'm going to hope that there are other electronic devices or whatever in there, or other people using highlighting tape. But I'm going to meet with the teacher. I'm going to say, so what's coming up that you're going to be doing some cooperative learning in? And they're going to tell me, and then I'm going to say, I had a great idea. here's what we can do. What do you think? So maybe if Johnny is listening to the pages read, and hopefully, by the way, we're not taking turns going around the room reading one after the other. Maybe back in my dark ages day, but hopefully not anymore. But, so when it is his group's turn, so let's say group A, group B, group C, everybody has the same assignment. And first grade, boy, it's been a long time since I was down there, but let's pretend they're going to read a story, and then they're going to write a response as if they were, I don't know, a book reviewer. And they're just going to give a simple little response to the book based on whatever the teacher's rubric is. So group A, maybe they've got a Chromebook, or 2 or 3. Maybe group B has an iPad. Maybe group C has a, I don't know, paper book. And maybe group D, Johnny's group, has electronic reading, highlighted readback, and access to an instant click on it for a picture dictionary, and some of those other things. So that would be the first step. Then the next time, somebody else is in Johnny's group. And then Johnny's maybe using word prediction. Everybody's using it in his group. And then the next time, there's different kids in his group. Guess what group everybody wants to be in after a while? Johnny's group, because even though Johnny needs it, guess who else gets their work done a lot faster? Okay? So we often carry our own perceptions and prejudices about what it's going to be like into the classroom, into our own families, and it's really hard. I can tell you that I get that firsthand, and I always share this with students. I was in a car accident many years ago, injured my neck, had to start using speech recognition, and this was back in the days when you had to speak one word at a time, but I got good at it. So it's really good now, but the point is that you think I didn't feel different getting my second master's, and by the way, in educational leadership, having to take out my technology. Why was that? Nobody else in the room had it. So today I do think it's easier because there is more technology. But what you want to do, and that's another whole separate talk, is you're going to make that transition smooth. You're going to believe, if you have the data to prove it, that the student will be successful with this technology, and that all the kids in the classroom are going to be accepting of it as you are. So I'm going to skip the next part, but we kind of talked about this, so because I'm way behind, as usual. Okay, here's a few examples of high tech. We just did some low tech. Text to speech, that simply means the text is converted to readable format and a voice reads it out. Sometimes it's a highlighted readback. Sometimes it's just plain old readback. Then there are electronic readers that have dictionary and study support, like there are programs that not only will read it back highlighted, but they will also allow the student to highlight what they believe is important, and then click on one button and it will extract all of its highlighted notes so that the student then has a study guide. There are electronic readers that can scan in a paper copy, if it's not like a textbook that's already electronic, that have multiple kinds of dictionaries, picture dictionary, web-based dictionary with the good old hyperlink to the images above it, basic and advanced dictionaries so that you have simpler language, more complex language, portable e-readers, iPad apps. So just some real quick examples, and hopefully you can read it in your handout. Leo, read out loud, Kurzweil, 3000, text aloud, voice stream reader, read to go, and I'm not differentiating between computer programs and apps right now. Okay, so what can a text reader do? Now I'm going to really start talking fast, so please, if you need processing time, you're going to say, hold on. What can a text reader really do? Well, you know, it can let the student see the words on the screen as it is highlighted and each word is pronounced for the student. How empowering is that? I don't need my mommy to read to me now. I could do this all by myself. If I don't know what a word means, I can look it up with one click. If I want to, highlight some things, so if my teacher knows what I think is important, I can do that. I can use word prediction to help me spell in some of these programs so that I can get my test on my computer or my iPad, have it read to me, and then either highlight from multiple choice answers, do a fill in the blank from a word bank, or a short answer that I dictate or type with word prediction, or any of those things, and then I can either print it or email it to my teacher. And I've done the same work as everybody else, and I've done it to the best of my capability, and I'm learning. I bet we all know kids that are awesome at science, but they can't read the science book. That shouldn't hold them back. Okay, so there's a lot of things that they can do. Oh, and I think I didn't answer the rest of your question about research. Yes, there is. Lots of research on the benefits of it and the growth of the students. You just have to go look for it, but there's a lot out there.
So I sit in a lot, I'm a parent advocate in our town, and I sit in a lot of IEP meetings.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to be honest, what you described was idyllic, but I am quite confident in saying that that's not happening in the classroom. And part of the reason why it's not happening in the classroom is that the teachers aren't trained
Right.
how to use this technology.
That's true. So it's going to take time, but and I've done PD and I've been that teacher that gets the following. So we send our teachers off, it's PD day, and we send them off to a workshop. And we show them 7 programs. Awesome! Go back to the classroom and use it. And the teachers go, I don't remember any of this. So when a student needs assistive technology, not only does the kid get trained, but the teachers get trained and the parents get trained, and we give them a coaching model so that they can actually use it effectively. Yes?
And put that on page 8 at the bottom.
Yes.
You have to put it on page 8 of the IEP at the bottom if you're in
There-
Connecticut.
Like she said,
There's
who does that?
okay, so
Town we should move to?
Yeah.
no. So you're going to take her or her with you, or ask for an independent eval, or take our new, and we're telling you from our administrator who's listening to all this with you. The truth is, guys, we have these mandates, but guess what we don't have going with it? Money. Right. Now, as a former administrator, I really get that. So we have to be creative. But the bottom line is, it doesn't negate the fact that if a student needs it, then they must have it. Number 1 failure cause of assistive technology, by the way. Anybody know?
Not training.
Not implement. Okay, yeah, you're right. Beyond that one.
The kid doesn't.
Number
even
2.
use it.
What?
The kids don't even use it because they don't know how.
Keep going. The kids don't use it because they don't know how. It doesn't get implemented. Anything else? Mm-hmm.
Who pays for it?
Okay, that's another question. We're coming back to that. Don't let me forget.
No training.
Parents don't know.
Parents don't know.
Teachers aren't trained.
Teachers aren't trained. Parents aren't trained.
The kid doesn't want to do it.
Maybe the kid doesn't want to do it. So that should be part of the evaluation process, because if you have 3 choices for the little Johnny, and he doesn't like two of them, you better not be recommending those two. Because almost always, there are multiple things that will work well, but you have to gather data, data, data. So, after implementation, the number one cause of failure, well, two side by side that go along with this, not enough training, and failure to develop a complete, in-depth implementation plan. So, not enough training means not the teachers, not the student, not the parents. When I do assistive tech training, I'd like, if the child is comfortable, for everyone who's going to work with him to be there. If the student isn't comfortable, then you should have a separate training. Because who's going to be there when I'm gone? Parent, teacher, administrator, all of the above. I'm not going to college with him, even though some of these kids I really like, and I would. But, so, any assistive tech person who's any good, number one, gathers data so that you absolutely know that this is the right solution for this student. Number two, gives you an extremely detailed plan.
What kind of data? Because like my
I'll
son
come back to
had-
that, and because I'll forget what I was going to say. Yep, remind me to come back. I have two come back to me's, which I'll forget as soon as I start talking again. But if I don't, I'll forget what I was just about to say. So, which I just did. I'll rewind.
Extremely detailed plan, please.
Okay, so in the recommendations part, it's not just like a list of things. It should give, I call it the shopping list. How much does it cost? Where do you get it? All of that. It should have how many hours of training for kid, parent, staff, whatever. Do they need, is it like one of those ones they're going to learn it in 10 minutes and they never need me again? Or do they need some check-ins? Who needs to be trained? How many hours is it going to take? And then, also, not just training in the software. Because what's the point of the software? So they can, right, they have to do their work, right? So once they learn the software, they have to learn how to use the software to do their work. So if those things don't happen to that level, it's not going to be a success. And then you wind up with a kid that is often described as you did. He doesn't like it. He doesn't want to do it. Okay? So, data. I remembered it. Data. So that's another whole conversation, but you should be gathering data about, how many more words can you spell correctly? What's the average length of the sentence? What is the average sentence? I'm just talking from writing at this point. Reading, you're measuring the improvement in different kinds of comprehension, that kind of thing. You should have a whole little table in there that gives you all that. Because don't we demand data for everything else? Yes. If we don't
So observation for an hour of the day with nothing more than, I think you probably benefit is probably not.
No, that's not an evaluation. No. In the same way that if I'm doing a reading eval and I just pop in and watch him reading and make some suggestions, that's not an eval either. Data. So how do you gather data? You got to try it with them. And usually you have to try several things because guess what? My hypothesis might be bad, despite my best efforts, or he might not like it, So if he doesn't like that, what's my backup plan? The data show it's the perfect tool. He doesn't like it. Am I going to recommend that? No. Okay. I'm going to try to go quickly along. Okay, writing, same kind of thing. We talked about this a little bit. By the way, a quick segue. So many years ago, well, not that many ago, really, we used to think that students who had language disorders weren't good candidates for speech recognition because, well, maybe their language wasn't really developed enough to enable them to dictate a great sentence. Because if they can't say it, they can't write it, right? then, data again, data. What we started, or at least I started to realize, is that how many of these language impaired kids, when they go to retrieve a word and they can't think of the word, what happens to the rest of the sentence? Bye. What happens if you have a language impairment, but you can spit it out really fast, but you got working memory problems? And, I can't remember what they said. But, if you can capture that, and there's a variety of ways to do it, then you have it. So, think outside the box always.
What if they have a stutter?
Good question. That's another long talk, but it depends. I know everybody hates that answer. But, so I have clients who have multiple sclerosis. Their speech is very unclear, or their speech is moderately unclear. I have students that are stutterers. It depends upon the degree, and you honestly won't know until you try it. I had a client, adult male, call my office. I didn't take the call. My staff did, and no one could understand him. But they said, I think it's something about dragon, but I don't know what he said. So I called him back. I wasn't always sure what he said, but I could get enough of it that I could say back to him. So I said, I don't know, really. I'm going to say this is like 12, 13 years ago. I don't really know if this is going to work for you. Because he not only stuttered, he had very unclear speech, worse than I can even pretend to be. This is one motivated man. He said, please, just let me come for 2 hours. And he drove all the way from New Jersey. He said, I'm going to bring my computer. Please help me. Tell me how to make it work. And I said, listen, I got to tell you, I can't guarantee anything. So this gentleman came, and first thing I had to do was up the RAM, because if you only put the amount of RAM that the box says, forget it. That's about enough to run the operating system. They want to sell you this stuff. And he didn't have a good microphone. So we upped the RAM. I gave him a different microphone, which was tricky because it was hard for him to put a headset microphone on, which is what's going to give you the best recognition accuracy. And I watched him dictate, and I counted how many words appeared on the screen before there was an error. And there were only 3 or 4. Anybody listen to fireside chats? Oh, come on. I'm not the only one old enough to... Anybody know a fireside chat? Thank you. Okay, so he talks in several words before he takes a breath, and he begins to talk again. This is an unusual case, because today you can say the whole sentence if your mouth doesn't trip up. Anyway, so I trained him how many words to say in his phrase before he rested his mouth. Then, and I'm not an OT-PT person, so I had to call in some help, because he would go, and what happens to his trunk muscles then? Spasm, 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 right? So then he had to learn when to breathe, how to breathe, when to force himself to relax. I would have never, ever guessed that he could do this. This guy, this is 13 years ago, before it was as good as it is now, walked out of there 2 hours later, signed up for some distance learning because it was a long way. It was amazing. He could get 95% accuracy. I would have never, ever guessed it. So in most cases, no, stuttering doesn't work. I'll give you another example of one that didn't resolve that well. Had a young lady who wanted to use speech recognition. I said, okay, she was, I think, 5th grade. She had a terrible stutter, and she had some articulation errors. Now, a good speech recognition program, if you correct it enough, will learn, as long as they're consistent in their misarticulations, it'll learn to type, the right sound, the right word. But she also was a stutterer, and she didn't get above 85% accuracy. Well, that might sound okay, but guess what? Think about it. For every 100 words, you have to correct 15. That's horrible, terrible. If you're not getting 98% accuracy, that's not good. So I said, you know, to her and to her mom, I don't really think this is going to be a good tool for her. And the little girl said to me, but I don't care. And she was very particular about how she did things. I don't care if I have to correct 15 words because I don't remember what I say. Okay, these are just some examples of some mid-tech. And again, it's a blurred line now, and you know, there's this fancy keyboard with all colors is kind of mid-tech, but it doesn't really require a lot of learning. It just has different letters colored in different ways. Maybe it's an ABC order instead of a QWERTY, and it has some other special keys, and they're quite large. Down the bottom, you have the Franklin Speller. Now, over up on the top left, you have, excuse me, you have somebody writing on special lined paper, and he's got like a marker. So maybe all they need is to be able to wipe it out over and over again and have a certain size line space. And then we have our infamous pencil grips on the bottom. So what kind of high tech is there? Well, we don't see them as much anymore now that we have iPads, but you know, you have portable word processors like Alpha Smarts and the Fort Writing Group and all of these guys. But you know, you also have it on the iPad, and a lot of times people go for that now. So these companies got smart, and now they make apps. There's graphic organizer software. There is word prediction software. By the way, a data thing again. So most students who have significant difficulty with spelling, if it's due to a phonological reason, word prediction will not help them enough. Why? Because, so those sounds are slippery. If you don't know what vowel, even with flexible spelling turned on, or if that L that should be in the beginning goes floating over to the middle or the end, it's not going to get it. So, you know, again, profile. And so sometimes you can combine word prediction. WordQ is a great program. It has great word prediction. It has within it sentence expansion, so it can guess the next 4 or 5 words. And also, it'll tell you which there it is. And also, when it comes to a really long word, and this student is just befuddled, he can dictate that word. And which are the words with a lower level speech recognition engine that it is more likely to get if they say it right? A multisyllabic word. Why? Because it's very regular. And that goes to the whole statistical analysis, and it doesn't know language, and it doesn't know phonemes really, but the way that it gets it is by the regularity. So, WordQ is a great intermediary one. Grammar, spell checker, oh my gosh, there's so many. Look at White Smoke, it's awesome. And there's Ginger and all kinds of other grammar checkers, but the nice thing about White Smoke is teachers like this. Helps you with setting goals on an ongoing basis. So when the student finishes going through it, and it'll present it 1 paragraph at a time, red for spelling error, green I think is syntax, and then blue is like he used the word nice 10 times. It's going to offer him some more choices and with an explanation, all kinds of things. But at the end, he can email a report to his teacher. And in the report it's going to say, had trouble with commas 10 times, those kinds of things. And that's very, very informative. Because a lot of times we have goals that are, you know, improve capitalization, improve punctuation, but this is going to give you ongoing feedback on a regular basis that's going to help you refine your teaching. I know I'm starting to talk faster, but I'm looking at the clock. Speech recognition software. So You heard me talk about a less robust speech recognition engine. Built into the Mac and built into the Windows operating system is speech recognition in both of them. They don't necessarily have all the features of other ones. For instance, deferred correction, you close the Word document that you dictated into, you open it up the next day, bring them up, spell checker, grammar checker, thinks it's all peachy, but I have no idea what I said. But if you have Dragon Pro, and now they slashed the price in half, by the way, and you get the individual version, it maintains that audio file linked to that Word document. So you can just play it right back and you know it forever. Figure, look at it this way, 42 minutes in a class, student's writing like crazy with his voice, uh-oh, gotta go. Save it, shut it down. The next day, open it back up. Not sure what I said, double click, play it back, good to go. So there are reasons for different things. You know, how many of you like Siri on your phone? Like her? I like her, but I've been dictating for a really long time. Sometimes I hate her though, because she doesn't get it right. Why doesn't she get it right? Well, number one, I'm a woman, and the speech guys that develop this are all adult males, and their voice is a lot different from mine. And it's what we call speaker independent. That means that, so what really happens when you talk to Siri is it goes flying up over the airwaves, up to the nuanced servers in Massachusetts, and it gets transcribed by the software up there, and then it goes flying back down to your iPhone or iPad or whatever. But it's the same voice model for every single person. So if you're 8 years old, it's not going to do as well as if you're an adult male. Same thing with Google. Google, I don't know if you know, but Google Chrome and Google in general has some, in tools, there's speech recognition. Depending upon who you are, it can do a fairly good job. But remember, if you don't remember what you said, you're out of luck. But those are all things to try, because sometimes it is enough. But when it's not enough, there are a lot more robust solutions that work really, really well as well. So you got to know what you're looking for. Just this huge list of graphic organizers that I'm going to fly by. Again, you have to know what the student's issue is. Draft Builder, for instance, my friend. So instead of the teacher sitting next to him saying, okay, now we're going to do persuasive writing, and I want you to make sure that you remember what we learned in class. You have to convince the audience, and you have to have 3 reasons. Remember we said 3 reasons. They have to be fact-based and blah, 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 blah. You can build that right into your template in Draft Builder. Well, maybe the other students don't need that. Maybe they're much more creative, and in fact, you're not going to use the graphic organizer at all for pre-planning writing. Instead, you're going to have them use it in a very free-flow fashion after they read something, because you want them to semantically connect the ideas that they just read about. So, lots of different solutions, and what each student needs is different. Okay, word prediction, we talked about it a little bit. Co-writer, word cue, and speak cue. Wordsmith, within read and write, there's also word prediction. Okay. And what number slide am I on? Okay, I talked about grammar and spell checkers, Ginger, Grammarly, Grammar Check, White Smoke. Again, look at these carefully. Some of them you have to get up on the internet. Kids with executive function, by the way, don't give them something that you do here, something you do here, and something that you do here. You want one window, start to finish. Maybe you have Dragon Naturally Speaking up here, you have Text Help down here, and when they're all done, they hit F2 and up pops White Smoke, and it feeds it to them 1 paragraph at a time, and then it pops it magically back into their window. For other students, that's not such an issue. Again, know the profile, gather your data. I know I'm talking fast, I'm sorry, we have a lot to get through in a very short time. Writing in PDFs. So this is another whole topic. Let me just say one thing. So, if a student has difficulty spelling, what does he almost always have difficulty with? Reading, decoding, right. So, all right, so we have this PDF. It's all good. We took a picture of it, and it's on the iPad, and now we want him to complete the worksheet. Graphomotor, great, not a problem. Reading, writing, spelling, decoding, you got a problem. If that PDF cannot be read to that student, you haven't solved the problem entirely, because guess what? They don't know what the question is, never mind how to fill it in. Food for thought. There are a lot of great solutions. A lot of districts actually have site licenses to Adobe Pro. Awesome product, and the student and teacher price is like $89. So it's an awesome thing. There's also a Power PDF Advance from Nuance that is without any kind of discount, like $149. They can both do all of those things. There is KNFB Reader, can take a picture of anything under the sun and almost have perfect recognition accuracy, can often maintain the columns, and then read it back to somebody. What it won't always really maintain is that beautiful, looks just like the worksheet everybody else is doing. So you have to know what you really need to accomplish, and then you can decide how robust a tool you need for the student. Math. Man, there is so little for math compared to reading and writing. It's really not good. But there are some solutions. I'm going to fly through this, but what I want to caution you about is this. Make sure that what you have in mind is not testing and is not teaching unless that's what you want it to do. So we have these great games. They're iPad games, right? And the student goes out there, and sometimes they're online, and they're playing with it. And so 4 times 3, quick, what is it? What is it? What is it? Oh, time's up. Ooh, oh God, I put 9. So what's in my brain now for 4 times 3? 9. So remember, it's reinforcement when they have it almost completely there. It's not teaching, and it's not really accessing things. So be careful what you pick. And really, part of it, the problem is because there aren't a lot of good things out there. Some good things. So, the National Library of Virtual Manipulatives, or Math Manipulatives, I know I left out a letter there somewhere. Awesome site. So, for instance, I was trying to teach my son. I'm not a really good math person, mind you. I can do the math language, but the rest of it, not so much. So, I'm trying to teach him advanced algebraic equations. Well, I know it has something to do with the same thing on this side as on that side, but so, out on this website, how do they teach it? In the best, most awesome way, visually. Here's a scale. What goes on this side has to go on that side. And if it's not right, it's not in balance. And they have a downloadable software program called Manipulatives. It's like $20, $30, I don't remember, fairly inexpensive. And it brings the visuals to the student. My favorite thing is when, and the website is free by the way, when teachers put it on their smartboard, and that's how they teach it.
How do you spell Maddie?
M-A-T-T-I, Maddie Math. Just go to NVLM, National Library of Virtual Manipulatives. And go out there and look. It might even be on the next slide, but if you just Google it, it'll come up. And then, so now you have the concept taught visually. Now you can map the language to the concept. And now, notice I'm saying this last, now you go for the procedure. I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, long division, I remember teaching my daughter in 4th grade long division. It was wrote. Step, 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 step. No concept, no understanding, it's hard. But the truth is, most of the time, unless they're very procedurally oriented, we don't learn something unless we understand the concept behind it. Lots of talking calculators. I am so sad that MathPad is gone. It was too expensive, I guess, for them to develop for Windows 10. It was, it had the nice little graph paper electronically, and then when you wanted to add 2/3 plus 1/10 or something like that, you flipped over and you had your virtual manipulatives and you dragged them down. So I would like to see that come back, really. Okay, high-tech programs. See, I knew we were going to get to it. This is National Library Virtual Manipulatives down below. There are really impressive sites for teaching time. My favorite, low-tech manipulative. So how many of your language-impaired kids like 10:15? My 19-year-old still says to me, yeah, Mom, what do you mean? What time? And, you know, so you have to show it to them digitally. But, so take a clock face, cut it into quarters, divide it, not cut, and color each quarter a different color. And so, and I usually make multiple ones, so half past, quarter of, quarter after, et cetera, you get it. Okay, so that's a great low-tech tool. On Cloud 9 is a wonderful program by Linda McBell, but my most favorite part about it is, and you can make these, the clouds with the math facts. So on the top is the 9, and on the 2 lower sides are the 3s. So it right there visually tells you about the relationship between the numbers and the math fact family. Okay. Telling time, these are just some sites I'm giving you because there's so little for math out there. But you have this in your handouts, talking calculators, math online tools for graphing. I'm watching that clock go. Note taking, oh gosh, I wish we had more time to talk about this. So, even when you give somebody a great solution, it might not be a great solution. And you're like, what? So, a student came into my office the other day. Yes?
The math online tools.
Oh, they're
the
blue?
box is illegible. So
Okay. Jane, I'll send you a new copy. I tried to make them all white, but once they're hyperlinked, it's awful.
Can you put it up and take a picture?
What's that?
Can you put that up?
Back up and you can take a
just
picture? Sure, if you promise to listen to me. Just kidding. Or JK, as the kids would say. Let me go back to it. And that one or the one before?
I think that one's it. Yeah, that was it.
Okay. All right, hold on. So let me just tell you that. No taking. So I'll go over here. So this high schooler walks in, and I said, okay, we did everything else, so now we're going to do note taking. He goes, nothing works. And I said, hey, give me time here. So I said, you see this thing I'm writing with here? And I took out my smart pen. He goes, yeah, I had one of those. Doesn't work. I said, what do you mean? He goes, smart board? Why would I go home and listen to my whole school day all over again? Yeah. So I taught him to do some things like leave big white spaces, listen for big ideas or whatever goes along with their goals and objectives, that kind of thing. And he went, wow, I'll try that. Same thing with audio note and sound notes and a lot of those things. My favorite, besides my pen, which all my teachers have to have them, administrator, beware, and once a month they have to submit an audio pencast with their notes and the soundtrack so that I can check up on what's happening instructionally. So, Onenote, it's free. And it works on Mac, it works on your iPhone, your iPad, your Windows computer. I love it. It looks complicated, but it's just a virtual notebook. And you can put the learning tools in it where there is some speech recognition. Again, it's speaker independent. It's not robust, but for some kids it's enough. But if you have a computer with a rear-facing camera, magic. Okay, so how many times do your kids come home and they had a new math concept introduced? And I'm like, yeah, you already know I'm not good at math, right? And they say, I don't get this. And you say, hold on, go talk to Dad for half an hour, let me read the book. And then you Google it, and then you still don't know what you're doing. So, and teachers actually like this because they post it on their website once they get over the fear of, being recorded. So, in the Surface 4, I don't know which other ones, but I'm sure you can find them. There is a rear-facing camera. In OneNote, not only can you audio record, you can video record. So, again, he's not going to listen to the whole day, but when he goes to do his homework and he doesn't know how to do that new problem, guess what? Pull up his OneNote, and he goes to the math part of it, and he goes to the class notes parts of it, and he replays that. And he sees the teacher teach it again. So he learns it the way the teacher wants him to learn it. Not some horrible way that I'm trying to teach him, and it's midnight, I still don't know how to do it. It is a wonderful, wonderful tool. Microsoft has a ton of learning opportunities you can send your teachers to. You can go to as a parent. You can take the kids to. There's a ton of stuff online. And for the disorganized kid, let me tell you, you can hyperlink to any document on their computer. You can, schools that have Google Classroom, they often have the ability to have the assignments that are all hyperlinked. You can connect to that Google Classroom. If you have Microsoft Classroom, teachers, heads up. You can get the OneNote Classroom. And you can present your whole lesson with it. You can hyperlink a video, embed a video. Your voice is there. You're step-by-step teaching the lesson. Can you tell I love this? I love this. Did I tell you I love OneNote? But at first blush, it's complicated because there's a lot in it. But when I go to meetings, I'm more likely to take my OneNote and open it up where I have, if you right-click in your email, if you have Outlook, you right-click on something that somebody sent you an attachment in and say, head to OneNote. When you go to your meeting and you open up for me, it's my Surface, and I open up that notebook, I can just double-click on that PDF or whatever the heck it is, and there it is. And I didn't have to bring anything with me, and my neck thanks me for that, by the way. For students, it can read it back to them. They can hyperlink out into their document somewhere to what they were working on with their classmates and pull up maybe their speech recognition, maybe their word prediction, maybe their text-to-speech to read it over again, maybe a hyperlink to where they have that textbook stored on their laptop from Bookshare so they can read the book. So I'm going to just fly through the rest here and take your picture. Okay, good, because I know we're getting late. Note-taking. So, by the way, note-taking. Paradigm shift here, too. I'll let that one up, but I think you can see that on your handout. I made sure they were all white. I got rid of the hyperlinks. So, in note-taking, I had a big paradigm shift maybe about 3 years ago, and it went sort of like this. But, we have to teach them to take notes, because when they go to college, they got to learn to take notes, or when somebody's talking to them, they got to be able to write notes, and so your executive function kids and your working memory people, or people like me that have lousy hands, it's a very hard thing. Again, I learned from my students, and one of them was a college student. So guess what? When you go to college, you don't gotta. You can do the same thing you're doing now. You can get your handouts from your teacher, and most of them are up on chalkboard and so forth now anyway. You can get the PowerPoint emailed to you in advance, and you can use your SmartPad or your OneNote or your audio note or any of those things you're used to using to take your minimalistic notes and listen to your parts that you need to. And I usually teach the kids to then fill in the most important details, not all of them. So, big paradigm shift for me in the way I now teach students to take notes with or without technology. Yes?
So, when the teacher provides the notes and it's on the smartboard or on Schoology, I mean,
okay,
we take it, we make a copy of it, we put it, it's just...
So
How does
Smartboards.
it translate into this?
Okay, I know we're running over. Can I just answer this real quick? You know, I can't answer anything quickly, but okay. So I've got a couple of smartboards. Couple of things. Anything that's in a smart notebook, which is the software that you have in a smartboard, can be emailed to anybody. It can be printed in the classroom. It can be posted on a teacher website. And something that I've been begging Randy Welch from SMART for probably 3 or 4 years since we had our last big go-round at CEC. So now, if you have students with visual impairments or they need to see something right in front of them, so in your smartboard, if the student has an iPad or a computer, guess what? Everything that's up there can come right there. And the student can capture it as he goes along, or the teacher can just make it available there and can post it later, or a million things. So anything that's on a smartboard is accessible to anybody.
It's not under,
By the way,
nobody
there's
knows
two
that.
You know, that's the problem with this field. Honestly, you have to read, research, go to all the listservs, go to all the conventions. Go to the SMART site. In Norwalk, there is a branch of Connecticut Business Systems. They have smartboards there. Swing by my office. We have the new, well, it's not new anymore, it's a couple of years old, but it's the one that looks like a TV. And there's a QR code. And the teacher just scans the QR code, gives them a hyperlink, and sends it out to the kiddo, and they're good to go. Yes?
Some of the technology is bidirectional too, so the kid can actually.
That's where I was going next. Yes, it is bidirectional. And it's a minimal upgrade most of the time to the SMART software. Yes, and that's the thing that I was begging them for, and he kept saying, okay. And then he finally said, guess what? So it is interactive, it's bi-directional. It first began with the Smart Cap IQ. And we tested it out, and it was only in black and red, but we could distance teach somebody and they could write back to us. And you can do that right in the classroom. So let's pretend in a perfect world that Bill Gates is gonna fund for all of us. In your classroom, every kid has an iPad, or they have a Chromebook, or they have a Windows laptop, or whatever they need. You're writing up here, they're writing their answers there, and you can choose to have it appear up here, or to be stored in a data bank, so every kid responds every time, instead of, okay, it's your turn, come on up to the board, let me just press the button, okay, good, what is everybody else doing? So, that was a real drawback. It was great, it was interactive, but one kid at a time, no more. Everybody can do it. And you can capture that data. And kids love it. The new Smart Notebook software is 16.2, I think, and it's awesome. It's interactive, and they have all kinds of pieces where there's like games that are truly like interactive, like, you know, Jeopardy and all these things, and they're much easier teachers to build. Yes?
What's that called? I'm sorry. What's that called that you're just talking about?
Which part? I know I'm talking really fast because
No,
Jane's going to
it
boot me if I
is-
don't finish soon.
It's the hardware.
There's various smart boards, but the software that we design the lessons in is called Smart Notebook. And by the way, you can download a free trial for, I don't remember how long, but you can download a free trial. It's fun.
For
It's really
computer,
fun.
you just download it for your computer, or?
On your computer, yeah. Yeah,
So
you have to
you're-
fill out a form, tell them, you know, I'll give you my firstborn son and all that stuff. But yeah, it's free. Not forever. But like the license for an educator, I think is something like $49 or something amazing like that. Different versions of the hardware of Smartboard have different capabilities. And there's different models and so forth, but a number of them are upgradable with some minor hardware. I know, it's money, I know. Question?
Like these note-taking software programs, do they break it down and say this is important? Is there some
No,
organization?
they don't. That's the problem. And when it's hard to listen and write at the same time, it's more complicated. So, depending on the student, you might start with having them listen only for the big ideas and nothing else in big white space. Or you have them listen for the big ideas and one piece of evidence, this is one of the don't listen to this, Mr. Administrator. One of the few things I really like about Common Core is the whole idea of core idea supporting evidence. Teaches kids how to let go of the rest. Okay? You have to teach them that, but if they can't learn it or haven't been able to learn it in 11 years, then you work around it. Okay? They're going to record and only write certain things down. Here's what I just taught a kid to do that's going off to college, real smart kid, this summer. PowerPoint comes up, you write number 1. Then you listen. Skip 10 lines. Next slide comes up, number 2. You listen. In a perfect world, if the professor gives you the PowerPoint in advance, then you have a split screen. Or you're putting, if you have OneNote, you're going to bring up PowerPoint in OneNote, and you're going to record, and you're going to write your numbers there. So you have your marker points. And in college, you've got to go back and listen and revisit anyway. But I say, people who know me know this about me. When they say, he can't, he can't, he can't. He won't, he won't, he won't. You don't know what anybody can do for sure until the day they're in the ground. So write a goal that's achievable. Make sure you have technology if needed, the right kind of instruction that will get them there, and then raise the bar. And then teach them all of that, and then raise the bar. And then teach them all of that, and then raise the bar. That's the only way you'll ever know what they can really do. Make sense? So, note-taking is probably the most complicated skill. Writing's very complicated too for a lot of reasons. I know we have to go, right, Jane? Okay, so we have 10 more slides, but you have them, so watch this fast forward. The last thing to tell you is, the rest is on here, we're not going to get to it. Remember we talked about that teenager? That is the last thing, Jane. With that phone in their pocket, or that iPod, or whatever they have in their pocket. Think differently, all right? Teach them to use what they like, and make sure they're using it right, of course. So, when they cannot figure out what an idiomatic expression means, instead of sending them to an app to try to look it up, that might be too hard to do, or, say ask your speech and language teacher later, I don't know, or, any of those things. In addition to building lots of visuals into your lessons, you're going to teach them to use what's in their pocket. Okay? How many of these kids don't know how to use YouTube? None. Okay. Yeah, there's some bad stuff out there that we don't really want them to see, but there's also a lot of other good video websites. Teach them how to problem solve with the tools they have already. Because in the end, what do we want for them? And this is the last thing I'm going to leave you with. We want them to be independently successful learners, right? That's your mission as a mom, as a dad, as an aunt, as an uncle, as a teacher, as an administrator. Help them to be independently successful learners.